You guys remember my Vector? Well, it was feeling kind of lonely, so I got it a brother. Sunday GUNDAY. What's going on, everyone? Back with another episode of Stuff and Things. Today we're taking a look at a gun that I first got my hands on this past year at SHOT Show. This caught my attention right away because it is very similar to the CZ P07, which is still one of my favorite double single action guns to date. What piqued my interest more is that the gun we're taking a look at is made by the company who makes one of my all-time favorite guns, the Kriss Vector. Ever since I played around with one in person, I've been dying to shoot one, and today is finally that day. So without further ado, let's get into the Kriss SPHINX. Quality, inside and out, that's the first thing that comes to mind when I look at this gun. Every component found in the SPHINX comes from a solid chunk of billet material and is then hand fit, giving this a feeling bordering on the line of functional workhorse and a piece of art. Any moving part of this gun is polished and tuned to reduce drag and increase speed. The SPHINX features full-length precision guide rails and a match-grade trigger, which should make this thing more accurate than I can even shoot. A lot of modifications that you see people do to their firearms have already been accounted for here, like a high-cut beaver tail, interchangeable rubber grips, an undercut trigger guard, and front slide serrations. Something that makes this gun unique is that the frame is actually split into an upper and a lower. The upper being made from a hard anodized aluminum for maximum durability, and the lower is a polymer composite which cuts down on the weight because, as you can imagine, this isn't the lightest gun in the world. The decocking lever is ambidextrous and the magazine catch is reversible, which is definitely a plus for any of you lefties out there. And the SPHINX also features a visual and tactile chamber indicator and a Picatinny rail for mounting any of your favorite lights or accessories. Now this is the SDP Compact, which is just one of the configurations that come from the many in the SPHINX line. There are plenty of different options to choose from, like full size or compact, threaded barrel or non-threaded, and there are a few different finish options as well. To get the complete specs and to see everything that Kriss offers, I'd recommend checking out their site for more information. Alright, I've been waiting long enough. It's time to finally shoot this thing and to see if it was worth the wait. Alright guys, my first mag impression with the Kriss SPHINX. I have to say it has already lived up to the hype, and there are even a couple more things that I actually like about it. The first thing that I have to talk about is the ergonomics. I can honestly say that no other gun has ever felt as good as this does in my hand. Just the contour of the grip, the high beaver tail, even the little bit of the finger grooves in the front, everything just feels so natural in my hand. As I mentioned, the rubber grip is interchangeable, however I just left the one on here that came with the gun. Now because the frame is split the way it is, as you can see here, this little line is where it turns from the billet material into the polymer. The gun does feel a little bit top heavy at first, and that was one thing that kind of worried me. However, because you can get such a good high purchase on here and the slide is so small, the recoil is super easy to control even with the 115 grain that I was putting through here. You probably noticed me changing my grip a little bit there, and that is because my hands are sweaty. It is about 90-95 degrees out here today. The rubber grips are very grippy, however if your hands are sweating, it does get a little bit loose. So although the ergonomics do feel really good, I would like to possibly see some kind of sandpaper type of material here. But if your hands are dry and you're shooting in ideal environments, this grip is going to do just fine, and if you were using this as a concealed carry weapon, this would actually be the way that I would run this gun because there would be no issue with this rubbing up against your stomach. And now from the top down, let's start with the sights. This gun has a black serrated rear sight to cut down on any glare in really sunny environments like I'm shooting in today. And then up front is just a simple white dot. The sights are metal, like I said, almost every part on here is made out of a billet piece of material. And they're decent, nothing really jumped out at me. I've always said in the past that my favorite combination is a black serrated rear with a red fiber optic front. So I would actually like to see this front sight post with a little fiber optic in there. Maybe even a tritium vial for some night sights to match in the rear as well. That would be a nice little touch, however, the way these come, nothing to really complain about. And then there's the slide. Like I said, this is very comparable to the CZ-P07, and the slide that tracks is obviously very, very thin. This obviously cuts down on the weight that is reciprocating back into your hand, causing the recoil. And for how heavy this gun is, I was actually surprised with how flat it shot. It also has the rails on the inside like I mentioned, so it tracks super smooth. I really had no problem finding the sight picture again for any follow-up shots, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to shoot this thing pretty damn fast once I get used to the trigger. Now the way this thing feels with the split frame, like I said, it does feel a little bit top heavy, so because of that I thought the recoil pattern would be a little bit goofy to manage. However, it really was not. I can definitely see myself getting very comfortable with this gun in the future, and that was only my first mag through it. The front slide serrations on here are also very nice. Like I say with most handgun reviews, I really like when this is included. I tend to press check my guns that way, and that is just a nice added touch. The controls also feel very solid because of course they are not plastic, they are metal. So you have the decocker, which is ambidextrous. I can get to that with my thumb, no problem at all. And then the slide stop is a little bit trickier to get to, but if you really reach for it and give it a little help with your hand, it'll close no problem. This magazine button is also super positive. The mag just kind of flies out of there. Even upside down, you can see it pop out a little bit like that. These are 15 round mags. They are metal and they have an orange follower, which is a nice touch. I'm not really the type of person who does a lot of tack reloads and stuff like that. However, it's super positive and I would have no problem running this gun in a normal course. And then there's the trigger. Whew, I think I'm gonna save my thoughts on that until I put a lot more rounds through this. I typically only run about 100 rounds to give you all of my impressions on any type of gun that I shoot. However, this is gonna be one that I put a little bit more through. Let's get back out there and put this through its paces. How about a little double action? You guys know a test ain't complete without a mag dump. But wait, bonus mag. Alright guys, back for my final impressions of the Kriss SPHINX. I could sum it up really quickly just by saying I am a big fan of this gun now. First off, again, the ergonomics are huge to me, and I don't think it's just my hands either. Anyone who I have handed this gun to had the same reaction that I did when I first picked it up, and it was just like, whoa. It just feels so locked into my hand, and although the grip texturing isn't the greatest, for my hands this is definitely one of the best ergonomic guns that I've ever held. In the future I may look into getting replacement grips, maybe a little bit of a sandpaper texture, that way if I'm out here shooting when it's really hot, I don't have to worry about my hands getting sweaty and then the gun kind of slipping out. I also brought out the CZ P07, that way I could do a direct side-by-side comparison, because a lot of times when people see this pistol, which as of right now is not as popular as the P07, it may be pretty easy to get these two confused. Size-wise in the length department, they are almost exactly the same. Both of these are also very comparable to a Glock 19 minus the threaded barrel on the CZ. The grip length is almost exactly the same on both of these as well. I believe the trigger guard may be a little bit bigger on the Kriss, and with the grips that I currently have on here, it may be a little bit fatter as well. However, they are both very similar when it comes to the form factor. Now in the past, I've obviously said a lot of good things about the P07, so if you want to check out that video, I'll leave a link for it up in the corner. However, if I had to choose between these two and money was no option, right now I think I'm leaning towards the Kriss. One of the reasons for that decision is definitely the trigger. I've got a snap cap in here, so we're doing this safe both personally and safe for the gun as well. Let me decock this and we'll start with the double action. The trigger on the Kriss is very curved, which I'm not a huge fan of if I'm being honest. I prefer the flatter face of the CZ, however this thing is very smooth. Even in the double action, you can feel the take up as the hammer comes back, and you can even feel a distinct wall right about here where you know it's gonna break. This gun is brand new and it will break in over time. However, even with only having about 200, maybe 250 rounds through it, it's still very smooth in double action and even predictable, which is not something you typically find with a trigger like this. And now for the following shots, once the hammer is back, you can feel a definite wall here. It's really easy to find and you can almost tell that the internals are polished and built out of billet material. Once at that wall, you get a nice crisp trigger pull. It's not breaking too far back like I had mentioned about my USP, and although I don't really like curved triggers like this, I do find it pretty damn comfortable to shoot. Now let's check out the reset. Gonna let out slowly. Right there it was, not super audible, but definitely tactile. I can feel it in my finger. And then a little bit of take up back to the wall, and you're right there again. For this trigger being brand new, I'm definitely a big fan of it, and I can only imagine that over time it's just gonna get better once it breaks in. A couple other things to note when comparing this to the CZ is that they both have very small slides. The Kriss might actually be even a little bit smaller, so because of that, when you hand it to a new shooter, it may make it a little bit difficult for them to rack the slide. You really kind of have to pinch on the back there to get a good grip. However, these serrations are very nice. They're not overly aggressive, they're not gonna be ripping the skin off of your hands, but they're definitely very positive, giving you a good grip whether you're grabbing it from the front for a press check or from the rear like normal. Another thing to note about how skinny the slide is that when I come in here with my support hand thumb, I have a ton of real estate to put it on the side of the gun here, stabilize my shots and really grip down on the gun. I don't really have to worry about my thumb riding too high and catching the slide. Like I said, the serrations aren't going to be ripping your skin off, but there is a ton of room here that you can put your thumb pretty much wherever you feel comfortable. That being said though, once you get a couple rounds through this gun, it is obviously going to heat up because this is all metal. So after a couple of those quick mag dumps there, when I would bring in my support hand thumb, it would definitely be a little bit warm right here. Overall, this turned out to be a great pistol so far, zero malfunctions, and I understand that Kriss USA did a very good job with the Vector. However, I'm actually very surprised with the quality of this firearm. Aesthetically speaking, I think it looks very good. Ergonomics wise, huge fan of how it feels in my hand, and overall I think it's just a very well executed package. So if you're in the market for something a little bit unique, this may be a good option for you. So I guess that's all that I had for the SPHINX. You guys are definitely going to see this in future videos. This is one gun that I'm definitely going to hold on to and put a lot more rounds down range. This will be a good baseline for comparisons against other guns like the P07 and basically any other double single action guns that I might pick up in the future. If you have any questions on this or want to know more about my personal preferences, like would I carry this? Maybe. Leave those questions in the comments down below and I will answer as many as I possibly can. And if you're new to the channel, consider clicking subscribe because I make new videos every week and there is a lot more to come. So that is going to be all for today. As always, thank you guys for watching and I'll talk to you in the next one.